The 1990s were such a wild ride for cinema. On one hand, you had these massive blockbusters blowing up the box office, but just beneath the surface, there was this whole other world of dark and twisted films. These weren't your typical thrillers or horror movies either. Nope, these were the kind of films that crawled into your brain and refused to leave. Think psychological mazes, existential dread, and crime stories that felt like they were ripped straight out of a fever dream. Some played with reality, others made you question your sanity, and a few were simply too disturbing. If you're the type who loves movies that linger in your subconscious, then buckle up, because you're in for a treat. And trust me, stick around until the end. There are definitely a few titles here that you've probably never heard of but need to see. Seriously, your watch list is about to get a major upgrade. And hey, if you're digging this list, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment, and maybe even subscribe. Let's dive in. Richard Stanley's Dust Devil is like if The Hitcher and a supernatural horror film had an existential crisis in the middle of the Namibian desert. This atmospheric, dreamlike horror western follows a shape-shifting serial killer, played with eerie detachment by Robert John Burke, who preys on lost souls. The film is drenched in symbolism, hallucinatory imagery, and creepy silence, making it feel more like a waking nightmare than a traditional horror movie. Stanley had bigger ambitions for this one, and despite a troubled production, the film remains one of the most hauntingly surreal horror films of the decade. If you love unsettling visuals and stories that blur the line between folklore and reality, Dust Devil will haunt you. Nick Nolte delivers a powerhouse performance in Affliction, a slow-burning psychological descent into trauma, masculinity, and inherited violence. Directed by Paul Schrader, the screenwriter of Taxi Driver, this bleak character study follows a small-town cop investigating a hunting accident while grappling with the demons of his past, embodied by his abusive father, James Coburn, in an Oscar-winning role. The film is a pressure cooker of resentment and self-destruction, culminating in an ending that is as devastating as it is inevitable. It's not a movie you watch so much as one you experience, and it stays with you long after you've left its cold, desolate world.
You know, I get to feeling like a whipped dog some days. Some night I'm gonna bite back, I swear. There's some dirty business going on in this town.
You think you're getting away with it?
What in the world is happening to you?
I love you, you mean son of a bitch.
Dario Argento's The Stendahl Syndrome is as nerve-wracking as its premise suggests. Asia Argento plays a detective investigating a serial rapist, only to become his captive, and suffer from the real-life condition where overwhelming art triggers hallucinations. This is one of Argento's most disturbing films, mixing psychological horror with dreamlike surrealism and deeply uncomfortable violence. It's a film that doesn't just get under your skin, it crawls inside your mind, forcing you to question what's real and what's imagined. Argento's signature giallo aesthetics are here, but they've been mutated into something even more nightmarish. If natural-born killers took a detour into even deeper madness, it would look a lot like Perdita Durango. Also known as Dance with the Devil, this brutal comedic crime thriller follows Rosie Perez's titular character and Javier Bardem's psychotic Santeria practicing gangster as they kidnap two teens and go on a violent spree across the Mexican border. Perdita Durango revels in its chaos, pushing its characters into some of the most depraved situations imaginable. It's an unhinged, hyper-stylized descent into crime, black magic, and nihilism, and it absolutely does not care if you're uncomfortable.
My name is Romero Dolorosa.
Well, my name is Perdita Durango.
Do you want to come with me?
Mr. Santos will be counting on you, and I hope you don't let him down.
Give him the money we agreed on, then kill him.
What are you doing?
Watch, wait, and see. I'll give you a piece of advice. If you really want to do something, you just do it.
This electrifying cinematic punch is called Bullet Ballet, a grainy, high-contrast bad dream of urban decay and self-destruction. The film follows a man obsessed with obtaining a gun after his girlfriend's suicide, pulling him into Tokyo's seedy underworld. Shot in stark black and white, Bullet Ballet feels like a nightmare you can't wake up from, blending themes of violence and alienation. It's as punk rock as psychological thrillers get, capturing an anarchic, lawless energy that will leave you rattled.
なんで自殺なんか。
てめえだよ。てめえがいけねえんだよ。その女殺したのお前だよ。お前が悪いんだよ。この落としやがってよ。拳銃返してもらう手間省けるとこだったよ。
夢の中で人殺したら罪になるか。こんなクソ東京全部夢だよ。
なあ、拳銃ってどうやって手に入るんだろうな。
変な真似したら全部ぶっ壊すからな。
もう壊れちゃってんだよ。何すっかわかんねえぞ。
Are you enjoying this deep dive into the most twisted 90s movies that will haunt your mind? If you're liking the video so far, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Also, let me know in the comments which of these films left the biggest impact on you. And if you love movies as much as I do, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more mind-bending lists like this one. We've still got 5 more to go, so stick around. Things are only getting darker from here.
Good people, bad people, they generally look like what they are.
A crime film that exists in its own twisted little bubble, Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, is Pulp Fiction if it were a funeral dirge. Andy Garcia leads a cast of misfits trying, and failing, to escape a doomed heist, all while spitting out some of the most bizarrely poetic dialogue ever written. The movie's got a cult following for a reason. It's dark, violent, and soaked in despair, but also strangely beautiful. If you love crime films where every character seems doomed from the start, this one's for you.
Look who's here, Jimmy the Saint. Run Mark.
What do you mean you got a call on the note? I didn't take the note off for you. I took it off for New Orleans South.
Took it off New Orleans South? Who do you think New Orleans South took it off of?
You could tell me where Earl Denton is, or you could tell it to the worst.
You got 48 hours.
Are you in?
Absolutely, Jim.
Cure is what happens when a detective thriller is infected with something far more insidious. The film follows a detective investigating a series of gruesome, identical murders committed by different people, all of whom have no memory of their crimes. The answer seems to lie in a mysterious drifter with the ability to hypnotize people into committing murder. Unlike traditional serial killer films, Cure is deeply frightening in its ambiguity. It's slow, hypnotic, and terrifying in a way that sneaks up on you.
この人はどうです？
知らない。
これはあなたですよ。
そんなつもりはない。俺はただ犯罪を説明する言葉を探してる。
犯罪はいつも特別な意味があるように見える。大体無意味だ。
なぜあんな殺し方したんですか？誰かから聞いたとか。
催眠暗示か。
可能性あるか。
単に人を殺すだけならここまでやる必要はないでしょうから。
あんたの話が聞きたい。
David Mamet's The Spanish Prisoner is a psychological mind game built on deception, paranoia, and the art of the long con. A man finds himself ensnared in a labyrinth of lies and betrayals, unsure of who he can trust. The picture is a showcase in tension, with every conversation laced with double meanings and every action leading to unexpected consequences. Mamet's dialogue is razor-sharp, and the film's slow-burn suspense will leave you second-guessing everything.
Somebody screws around with you, you go out and get even with them. I believe we have a problem.
So how does it end?
You got any undisclosed bank accounts?
What do you mean?
No Swiss bank account.
No, I told him. You must have a file on him.
Who?
It is the oldest confidence game on the books. Spanish prisoner.
The man he's a career criminal.
They will give you nothing, and they will begin to act cruelly toward you.
That's where they picked you. You're the innocent, you're the victim.
You now have a Swiss bank account. Anybody asks?
I hope you're not talking about any kind of action that would injure the company.
There's no question of security.
Based on Stephen King's novel, The Dark Half is a deliciously strange take on duality and repressed darkness. Timothy Hutton plays a writer whose pseudonym literally comes to life to torment him. George Romero wrote and directed this one, leaning into the psychological horror rather than outright gore. The result is a deeply unnerving, cerebral horror flick about creativity, identity, and the monsters lurking within.
The Dark Half. Thad Beaumont has a secret.
I know all about it.
A piece of himself he keeps hidden. Away from the light, safe in the shadows.
I wrote those words.
Thad Beaumont thought he didn't need George Stark anymore.
The American way of death.
That's it.
He served his purpose. Time to lay him to rest.
You really don't realize what you're like when you write those books, do you? It's like watching Jekyll turn into Hyde.
Hello, George.
I can come closer to believe a ghost story than this. You're talking about a man who never was.
Comes George A. Romero's masterful vision of a nightmare come true.
Are you ready? Just waiting on you.
Jim Jarmusch's Dead Man is a metaphysical western that feels like a slow, beautiful descent into the afterlife. Johnny Depp plays a man on the run, guided by an enigmatic Native American named Nobody, as he slowly realizes he might already be dead. Shot in haunting black and white and accompanied by Neil Young's hypnotic electric guitar score, Dead Man is poetic, bleak, and profoundly odd. It's less of a western and more of an existential meditation disguised as one. It will haunt you beyond the final frame.
It's not a bad illustration of you, William Blake.
Johnny Depp gives a riveting performance, says the LA Times.
Who saw what and who did what or who did who? Good God, I'm hit!
That weapon will replace your tongue, and your poetry will now be written with blood.
You were a poet and a painter,
And now, you are a killer.
He came west to find a new future.
How do you do, sir? I'm Bill Blake, your new accountant.
Dead Man.
So, what did you think? Did any of these movies creep into your subconscious? Are there any films we should have included? Drop your suggestions in the comments. And if you're craving more obscure, mind-bending films, check out our curated playlists. You might just find your next obsession. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep exploring the dark corners of cinema.